Hey, I'm Shane. I'm a partner at Modern Tribe. We are a digital agency that builds software for large brands like eBay, Microsoft, you name it. And we also have the largest online calendar in the world with over 600,000 users. And there you go. We've been remote since 2001. So for the first 7, 8, 9 years, most people literally didn't understand. They were like, wait, so you like sit in coffee shops and you work? And I'd be like, yeah, I don't have an office. And so for a while, that was a real challenge with customers, trying to get legitimacy. That day's gone. Like, I don't have to explain that anymore to customers. Very few of our customers are like, well, if you can't come into the office, this isn't gonna work. We don't have those debates at this point. And that's not just because of us, Cisco led a huge movement in opening up the idea of remote work as a credible thing in the US corporate world. And a lot of companies followed. At this point, we're only unique in that we're 100% distributed across 12 countries, and that we've been doing it so long. To be really honest, the biggest challenge I had for a while as a remote worker, especially when I worked from home by myself, was that I was convinced that everyone was having fun except me. So I would sit at home and I'd be so stressed because I'd be like, I'm working and everybody else must be having a grand old time. And that's actually why I started working in coffee shops. Because I would go to a coffee shop, I'd look around, I'm like, oh, everybody else is working too. And then I could put my headphones on and I was totally fine. And that whole sort of like fear of missing out went away. And I found my rhythm. I chose it for flexibility, which is probably the same thing you mean by freedom. I chose it because I wanted to design my life. To be really honest, I started remote working in my early 20s so that I could surf when the waves were good and the tide was low. And you know, as I got older, it was so that I could be present when my children were there. And the reasons changed, but ultimately they all boil down to being able to have options around where I spend my day and how I live my life. I will actually say that there are a lot of places today to practice that aren't necessarily a job. I'm a huge fan of open source projects, which open source projects are just large remote communities working on a shared outcome. You know, and so you can go contribute to a shared, and that's not just software developers. Some of the biggest projects like WordPress have designers that commit, have QA people, have HR people, have accessibility efforts. Like, there are so many ways to contribute in this projects. And then with your experience there, you can demonstrate to an employer where, like, have you ever worked remotely before? You're like, not a job, but I'm part of this active project, and you can see the body of my work. You can see the contribution I made. You can see how I communicate with people. And so a lot of times when people are like, how do I get in? I'm like, get some experience, but that experience doesn't have to come through a job. You know, the whole team communicates through Slack. So that's an anchor point. To be fair, email's still a big part of my life. Dropbox and the whole Google suite of tools of Drive, Gmail, all these things are, I mean, to be honest, like, I don't know if my tools are that different than most co-located companies these days. It's just collaboration tools. The only difference is most of my meetings happen on either Hangout or Zoom with video calls versus in person. The rest is fairly similar. It's just good workflow practices. I don't think remote work is something that everybody loves. And so ultimately, do they need to figure out whether this is a good fit for their life? Yeah, I mean, I'd been doing it so long, my wife was like, well, I want the freedom you have. And then she went and she worked remotely for Google for a while, and she came out and she's like, I don't like that. Like, I like the community and the office and the interaction and the social layer and all that. So I think sometimes you just need experience to see if it's the right fit. Let's see. Find a regular workflow and pattern for yourself. I mean, this could be, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a night owl or a morning person, but build a pattern so that you either A, aren't working all the time, which would be my pattern, or aren't distracted all the time, which some other people suffer from. And make sure that a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and to me, they're not separate things. It's just a well-designed life. Like, my advice to you would be live intentionally. Think about how you're going to spend your time and think about the outcomes you want and make sure that they're in balance with each other so that, your family, your friendships, your fitness, your finances, and your sort of sense of well-being and understanding of where you're going in your life are reasonably well aligned, and that your work and your play and all the things line up with each other.